Kasey, welcome to the Growing Unicorns. My name is Holly. Karina cannot make it this time around, but we're really excited to have a new guest, Kasey Chen, to join us. So I will have Kasey to introduce himself.
Hi everyone, my name is Kasey. I work in growth marketing for a few years now. Been floating around different countries. I'm based in London at the moment, but in my previous project and roles, it brings me to all kind of interesting companies, from the enterprise, huge Chinese software company, to a boutique scale up in London. So I've been working in different countries, particularly different scale of the business. You can't know, like, even for a simple sales and marketing conversations, it might differ so much through different industry, through different regions. And I hope my experience will bring some insight, or maybe some sort of memory to some of your audience, perhaps. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, we had lots of guests from the US, but we don't often have guests from the European perspective. So I'm really glad we get to chat today. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, Kasey, how did you get into growth in the first place? I'm curious.
So I got an interesting story. I did a account finance degree, and I think I'm being a bit too creative to be an accountant, because to be a creative accountant is not always the best thing in the world. And I started learning my so-called, firstly, digital marketing from my own startup as an e-commerce company. So in the groundhog days of the startup, you have to learn anything new. That was where page search, content, website optimization. You have to learn all this stuff from scratch. Obviously, with those experience, you tend to learn from the best practice from those best providers, best strategy thinkers, and obviously, learning is one thing, but actually applying to different scenario, it can allow me to say, these things might not be as it being written on, like, what the software provider would tell you to do. So I think lesson learned from a lot of different experience, pick up from different people, different team members, and that's how I go up from a digital marketeer to I would call it a growth marketeer, linking more sales and marketing and customer success together as what HubSpot tried to pitch. It's still a flywheel scenario that everything should link up together, and I think marketing will be a good tool to be able to be a linchpin to all the department of different organizations, and growth kind of accelerate the spin rate, increase the cadence. And I think that's where particularly a lot of scale ups, enterprise company are looking for regarding to the next wave of growth. So that's where the whole circle kicks in. Yeah.
Awesome. Yes. Yeah. Totally agree with that. The flywheel and the fast iteration is one of the essence of growth. And you mentioned that you've been spending some time in video space, and video obviously is very hot right now, and with different social platforms and video recording, video sharing, and just video itself becomes more and more of the norm with remote work and etc. How do you see video as the growth tool?
Yeah, for sure. I think even before COVID, before the pandemics, I think if you ask a typical B2B sales and marketing teams, what's the best tools to get leads, to close sales? They would say event. They would say face-to-face meeting. The whole reason is to create not just like chit chat, but actually to understand the other parties, let's say, growth wishes or pain points. And obviously, with COVID, and a lot of people are to stay indoors, but at the same time, so many different videos have different qualities, and I think the trend for 2022 is that particularly if you're decision makers, particularly if you're a bright person, how can you leverage a channels that is more personalized to you, actually can deliver the message a little bit more direct way? And I felt like video, particularly for B2B, is one of the tools that it can make you stand out. And for the last few months, and I spent a lot of time in a financial technology scale up. I think particularly in some of the old traditional industry like legal, insurance, fintech, or even crypto, video actually can make you stand out because you can deliver the message a bit more clear. I think one of my best suggestions is that to leverage one-on-one video a bit better, and also all this video that about technical aspect of your, let's say, value propositions, because one-on-one video, I still think, particularly for those traditional sectors, it can really deliver the message more directly to those time pool personnel. And I ultimately, if you make you stand out, make you connected with your audience, then that's half the battle of growth. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you mentioned several different formats of video, right? Like it can be one-on-one video, and then it can be like educational video. What's in your mind? How do you categorize the different variations of video and their formats and usage?
Yeah, sure. In a typical sales funnel, there's like many particularly for B2B, they might have like so many different stakeholders. They're in a different stage of the decision-making process. And I think for those, like say, educational video is perfectly fine for those top funnels, awareness stage engagement. But when we talk about, let's say, a more like a account-based marketing approach, particularly those clients that you tend to know them already. So in my sectors, which is in fintech, financial institutions, you tend to know your customer already. But the question is that how can you engage with those stakeholders within a, let's say, large firm? How can you push a large deal across the board? So I think, so in my mind, some of the one-on-one video platforms such as Drift, Vineyard, they are great too for sales personnel or a customer success team personnel to use, so that not only for our data-driven guys, if you cannot track, if you can't measure, you can't improve. And I think some of those platforms, those two are two of the many that allow you to group all the data together into your, let's say, your CRM, so that you can see all these digital touch points, how they perform. For example, like whether it's people actually click the video, open the videos, to which point they drop off, and more importantly for B2B, it always can match a call to actions that get us that link to those video page. And I think particularly for time pool decision makers in those like traditional sectors, it really gives them a different perspective on, for example, like what to do next. And I think at the end of the day, particularly for account-based marketing, you tend to know those people already. But in order to make those engagement more meaningful, I think if you can't meet them personally, then I think one-on-one video would be the next best tool to kind of recreate those eureka moments.
Mm-hmm. What's some of the effective ways to actually make sure the person sees the video? Do you send them an email? Do you send a link to a landing page? Is the video embedded? Do you like try to send this one video to the person, or like what are some of the ways that you actually execute those?
That's the official way, and I would say the Kasey way. So according to those platforms, I think you can always put, let's say, a very easily generated thumbnail on like either the email or on the linking message. For example, like let's say I wave a hand and say, "Hello, Holly, this is a message for you," something like that. In comparison to all the other, let's say, email content that they might have like 100, if not 1,000 per day and make you stand out, number one. So that will kind of like improve the click-through rate. And I think secondly, I think the art of like video messaging is that it's not put too much at the beginning and make it clear. So for example, like if you just summarize into a simple fear of missing out value proposition statement and click, that's far more useful, far more effective for those people to actually say, this is something that might be in it for me. I have to, click to find out. And I think what video allow you to do is that you can combine the visual element of text, graphic, and a bit of, let's say, your personality to make it stand out. And I think the art is that I think video messaging is, in my opinion, is that it's how to break down, let's say, a simple one-page email into, let's say, 2, 3, 4 steps in B2B cycles. So in order to calculate or measure growth, you want to see on which part people drop off. And I think by breaking down, let's say, a typical email into a 2, 3, 4 parts, then you can measure which part they're interested, which part they drop off. And again, with all this video platform dimension, Vineyard and Drift, you can see which timestamp people drop off. You can see which timestamp that people view more than once. And I think I allow you to do A/B testing, and it's just one of the tools that I think, like particularly for the sales BDR teams, it's very easy for them to learn and then adapt. So it just, from my experience, that something that is really easy to adapt internally, and for external people, it just a bit refreshing to have a different perspective on the same message. So.
Yeah. What kind of data have you seen in your work on open rates or like click-through rate or action rate, conversion rate? What have you seen the difference between an email versus a video message?
Can I say the video message can still need to be delivered either via email or via LinkedIn. So the channel are still email, LinkedIn, or a chatbot. Okay, so but to answer your question, because the video can sometimes be hosted on a simple landing page, so the call to action can be personalized if you have this know-how on how to do a bit more personalized approach on your landing page. So for example, like in my examples, we have different pillars for our target audience, and so rather than like have like a either a standard email that with standard CTA or a typical one-on-one sales BDR email that they have to spend like hours and hours to perfect it, we can make the video message as the so-called first gate of contact first, okay? And by combining our CRM data, then we can, when people do click on the video, we can show different call to actions on the landing page. For example, like if we know that they are a still awareness stage, then the call to action on the video message will be more towards awareness. But by the same message towards a different, let's say, stakeholders within the company, we can show them different call to actions. So I think to answer your question, the metric wise, I think it really save our BDR and sales team a lot of time, particularly on like creating those so-called bespoke one-on-one email that normally generate those middle of the funnels conversions. But also at the same time, by actually showing the BDR and sales team's personality, it actually drive the conversion, drive the click-through rate, drive the conversion rate substantially. And my examples with my current project is that by using Vineyard, we increase our engagement rate by 3 times. So that's quite a good substantial improvement. And also fundamentally, I think it add value on showing the personality of the people. And I think that's where we really I will call that increase your stickability of the brand on people's minds.
How do you define engagement rate?
Oh yeah, so simply firstly by click through, then obviously with the CRM platform, we can kind of put a gauge on like to what extent, let's say, this activity move, let's say a deal opportunity further down the line. And I think I'm a bit of a CRM geek, so I think anything that we can link to the central database or the CRM, it allows us to have a better visualization on where the optimization, where the engagement and so-called bottleneck is. And so anyway, so for my experience, I think it's one of the tools, but we still have to utilize some other tools to map out all the engagement touch points, particularly offline as well, so that we can drive the whole growth machine along. Yeah.
Right. So you would say like the 3x of engagement rate. Did you mean that 3x more people clicked on or responded to, or?
Yeah. Clicks first, and then obviously ultimately the holy grail is that to book an engagement meeting or book a demos. And so there's many different stages of engagement automatizations, but by far the click through are the biggest improvement by 3 times. So.
Oh, click through rate is 3 times.
Yeah.
So versus a text based
compared to the previous practice that we have. Yeah.
Yeah, that is a very big difference. And like, how about like the number of people who actually like went to a pipeline, or like, do you track the downstream metrics of the video?
But the project that I'm working on at the moment, the deal size are, I would say, quite ginormous. So I think we actually utilize this to particularly for the ABM scenario. So I think I would say less about demand generations, but more on like, particularly for those key accounts, how can we make sure that every once in a while those so-called touch point are meaningful? Because previously what we do is that maybe we just send an email that they may not open because of the current email practice. Only if they have some issue, or if they have some, I don't know, suddenly they say, "Oh, I'm very interested to know about your product now. Give me demos," which is particularly in the finance sectors is unlikely. So I think for our use for video, particularly for the financial sectors, is more on particularly on like keeping those top account hot, and obviously we do use video on the lead gen as well. But in comparison, I think we are, in my view, I think video messaging do make a lot of the so-called personal difference, particularly from a trust perspective from the people that, let's say, from our firm dealing with those big financial institutes.
Yeah. Super interesting. Like, any best practices you can share around the length of the video message, or what kind of goals? Yeah,
I think it really depends, but anything more than a minute, then you're over earning the patience from those business decision makers. Because at the end of the day, your role is, I mean, for those videos, is that you want to do something afterwards, next. So my best practice is that obviously, say your let's say value proposition or growth pain point connect to the personal touch. but a bit of a clear call to action, I think it make a huge difference. For example, like if you have something, a research being done, online events that is very tailored to those clients, make that clear so that show them what to do next. And I think at the end of the day, I think particularly for those one-on-one video, even though it's one-on-one, we find out that people actually, if those clients like those messages, they tend to share to those peers as well. So make them more shareable. So for example, like show a personality, show how much actually we're talking about their company, talking about the cost of doing nothing. So and make the call to action clear so that by video messaging, it drives the next actions. And from my enterprise account point of view, it make a huge difference on whether the deal is like sitting in the middle, doing nothing, or actually moving along.
That's amazing. Awesome, Kasey. I've learned so much about video and especially its role in growth and in sales. Thank you so much for spending time with the audience today.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Awesome.